Would you have the courage to tell a secret capable of destroying a lifetime of love, even knowing it's the right thing to do? The wall clock read 10:17 p.m. The hospital was already silent, but inside the small dining room, Donna Lucia, 63 years old, felt her heart pounding as if she were still on duty. The scent of chamomile tea mingled with the distant sound of the television turning off by itself. On the table, between the two of them, was an old letter. The yellowed paper trembled in her hands, not from time, but from weight. Marina, her 27-year-old daughter, watched her, confused. "Mom, what is this?" Lucia took a deep breath, as if preparing for a plunge into icy water. "It's what I should have told you a long time ago." The silence grew heavy. The clock continued to tick away each second like a hammer. Lucia looked up, and for the first time in years, her eyes were filled with fear. "Daughter, the time has come for you to know who I really am." Marina's laughter died on her lips. "What do you mean, Mom?" The answer came firm but trembling. "I adopted you, Marina. The day you were born, the world stopped." Marina jumped up. "What? I was a nurse at the hospital. Your biological mother was very young. She was scared. She asked me to take you." Tears began to stream down her face, and Lucia's voice broke. "I couldn't let you go to the orphanage. So I raised you as my daughter." Marina recoiled, her breath trembling. "So, you lied to me your whole life?" "I lied to protect you, not to deceive you." Silence fell. A clock, a piece of paper, 2 lives. Marina looked at her mother with teary eyes and whispered, "And who is she?" Lucia lowered her eyes. "The woman who taught me that love, sometimes, is born from mistakes." Time seemed to stop again. The truth had finally come out. But when Marina decided to find out who her real mother was, fate showed her that some truths are born to hurt twice. Before being known as Donna Lucia, a retired nurse and loving mother, she was just Lucia Helena, a 25-year-old who believed that kindness could heal the world. She worked in a public hospital in the countryside on long and exhausting shifts, where the corridors smelled of ether and despair. There, she saw more lives born and die than a woman's heart should bear. But even so, she never got used to the pain. Lucia had a gift, not only the gift of caring, but the gift of feeling. One Friday night, in the winter of 1996, the maternity ward was full. The clock was almost midnight when a young woman arrived in labor. She must have been no more than 17 years old. Extremely thin, with disheveled hair and frightened eyes, she carried a plastic bag with a change of clothes and a crumpled birth certificate. "Name?" Lucia asked softly. "Carla," the girl replied, almost in a whisper. "Carla Meneses." The birth was difficult, long, full of tears and fear. With each contraction, Carla said, I can't hold her." Lucia tried to calm her, wiping the sweat from her brow. "Calm down, my dear. Hold on tight. Breathe with me." When the baby's cry echoed through the room, the nurse felt something inside her break, an invisible bond between her heart and duty. The girl cried, turning her face away. "I don't want to see. I can't see." Lucia held the baby in her arms, a rosy, fragile girl with her eyes still closed. A sweet new scent filled the air. The nurse looked at Carla, who trembled on the stretcher. "She's beautiful. Do you at least want to look?" Carla shook her head, refusing. "My mother can't know. She'll kill me. I just want this child to live." The words echoed inside Lucia. "I just want this child to live." The next morning, the nursery was silent. Lucia watched the baby sleep. A white sheet covered the small body. It was a baby like so many others, but, for some reason, it wasn't the same for her. At the end of the shift, the social worker appeared with a clipboard. "The case of the girl Carla Meneses? The baby will be sent to the shelter, right?" Lucia hesitated. "Yes," she answered softly. "It's the procedure." But, when he left, she looked at the crib again and felt a different kind of tightness. It was something stronger than instinct, stronger than fear, something that said, "This child can't leave like this." That night, the rain fell heavily. The shelter was miles from the hospital. The driver on duty warned that he couldn't leave because of the storm. The baby would stay there in the nursery until the next morning. Lucia sat beside the crib, her uniform wet with tears and sweat. The clock read 2:17 a.m. She reached out and touched the little girl's wrist. The baby stirred, as if recognizing the touch. And then she opened her eyes, a calm, deep gaze, as if she could see into the soul of the one touching her. Lucia felt a tremor run through her body. Something inside her told her that that look was a call, a silent plea. "Don't leave me alone." "My God," she whispered. "What am I doing?" But deep down, she already knew. That morning, without witnesses and without promises, a mother was born. In the following days, Lucia couldn't let go. The shelter went on strike, and the baby remained in the hospital for more than a week. She fed her, rocked her, spoke softly during shift changes. Her colleagues laughed. "This nurse fell in love, didn't she?" "Yes," she replied, smiling without denying it. One morning she received the news. "Today is the day. The shelter will take the baby." Lucia felt the ground disappear beneath her. She excused herself, went to the bathroom, and cried alone, hiding her face in her hands. In the mirror, she saw a woman torn between ethics and love. "I can't do this," she repeated. "I can't." But when she returned to the nursery, the baby was crying desperately. Lucia picked her up and felt the crying stop instantly. The little girl fell asleep against her chest. You trust me, is that it?" she whispered. "Okay then. I promise to take care of you, even if the world collapses on top of me." That afternoon, with a heart at war and a courage she didn't know where it came from, Lucia forged a discharge signature and took the baby home. She named her Marina, the name she had always dreamed of giving the daughter she never had. The following years were a mixture of sweetness and fear. Lucia lived each day with guilt sitting beside love. She watched Marina take her first steps, say, "Mommy," and grow up believing that life was simple. But every time the hospital phone rang, Lucia's body trembled. What if someone had found out? Sometimes at night, she would take the little box where she kept the fake birth certificate and Carla's letter. She would read it and cry. Carla never came back, never looked for her, never asked. But even so, Lucia didn't hate her. Deep down, she understood. No one knows what it's like to fear losing a child until they almost lose one, she murmured. She became a mother in body and soul, stitching the girl's childhood together with love and secrets. But secrets are seeds, and even buried, they grow. One night, watching Marina sleep, Lucia rested her forehead against the window and said, her voice tired, "One day, daughter, what I hid will hurt you." The morning sun streamed through the thin kitchen curtains, casting shadows on the worn floor. Donna Lucia stirred the coffee, listening to the rhythmic sound of the spoon hitting the cup. It was the same sound that had lulled her mornings for over 20 years. The routine repeated itself like a protective ritual. Fresh coffee, toast, the radio playing softly, and the smell of soap wafting from the backyard. Marina, now an adult, hurried off to work. She worked as a teacher at a municipal school and often said she had inherited her mother's gift for caring, without realizing that this gift came from a secret. "Mom, take it easy today, okay?" she would say, adjusting her bag on her shoulder. "Promise you won't climb the ladder to clean the window again?" Lucia laughed. "I promise nothing. If I don't do it, who will? Me? On the weekend." Marina kissed her cheek. "You don't age, you know? Only on the outside, my daughter. Inside, time weighs more than it seems." Marina never understood the grave tone that sometimes crept into her mother's answers. To her, it was just tiredness. But to Lucia, it was the fear that a simple comment could shatter years of silence. They lived together in a modest house, full of plants and mementos. On the walls, carefully chosen photographs, graduations, birthdays, trips. But no photo of Lucia pregnant, no picture from the hospital. And when Marina asked, the answer was always the same. "Oh, back then I didn't like taking pictures." The relationship between the two was beautiful and genuine. They laughed at silly things, cooked together, shared confidences. Marina talked about her students, her dreams, her plans. Lucia listened to everything with a silent pride, like someone collecting victories in the form of words. "One day, Mom, I'll give you a life of rest." "I already have one," she replied. "Just seeing you well, my life has already rested." But even in moments of lightness, Lucia's gaze sometimes wandered, as if something inside her insisted on whispering, "You haven't yet paid the price for this choice." One afternoon, Marina found an old box in her mother's closet. Inside, papers, newspaper clippings, and a sealed envelope. "Mom, what's that box?" Lucia stopped, her whole body stiffening. "Nothing important, honey. Old things from the hospital." "Can I see?" "No." The answer came out too quickly. Marina raised an eyebrow. "Oh, okay. Sorry." Lucia disguised her feelings, taking a deep breath. "It's just that they're sad memories. There are stories in there that don't deserve to be remembered." Marina closed the box, but it stayed on her mind. It was the first time her mother had reacted with nervousness, and, however much she tried to forget, something inside her told her there was more in that box than just old papers. The days went by peacefully, at least on the surface. At night, Lucia spent long minutes staring at her daughter's bedroom door, as if she wanted to memorize that image before something changed. The secret, however much she tried to remain quiet, began to grow again inside her, and the weight of guilt has a cruel way of manifesting itself. In the body, the headaches returned, the insomnia, the old fear of being discovered, and as if by a twist of fate, the phone rang. It was a voice from the past. "Mrs. Lucia?" "Yes, it's her." "This is Saint Raphael Hospital. We're digitizing old birth records and we found an old file with your signature." Lucia froze. "File?" "Yes, from 1996. A case of a minor's birth. The mother's name was Carla Menezes. The name sounded like a gunshot." What's in this record?" she asked, trying to disguise the tremor in her voice. "The medical record is incomplete. There are gaps, but a social worker from the news sector thought that perhaps you could help fill in some information." Silence. "Mrs. Lucia, are you still there?" "I am," she murmured, "but I can't help. I don't remember." "That's all right. Sorry for the inconvenience. Good night." The phone fell from her hands. The next morning, Lucia seemed more frail. Marina noticed. "Mom, what's wrong? You're pale." "Nothing, daughter. Just a little dizzy." "Are you taking your medication properly?" "Yes, I am," she lied, lowering her gaze. Marina approached, worried. "I could make an appointment for you, Mom." "No need," she replied quickly. "I'm fine." But inside, Lucia's heart already knew. The past was knocking at the door. That night, while Marina slept, Lucia went to the backyard. The sky was clear, and the stars shone as if they wanted to remind her that there are truths that only darkness understands. She sat in the rocking chair and took out of her pocket the torn paper she had kept for years, the false birth certificate. She ran her fingers over the name, Mother Lucia Helena de Souza. That had always been a lie, but it was also the greatest act of love she had dared to commit. She looked at her daughter's bedroom window and murmured, "God, if this is the moment to pay the price, help me not to let her hate the one who loved her most." Inside, Marina dreamed. She dreamt she was running down a white corridor, surrounded by voices, but no one called her name. She woke up sweating, startled. She looked at the clock. 2:17 a.m. The same time that Lucia, years ago, had decided to change their destinies. Coincidence? Perhaps. But some stories have invisible bridges between the past and the present. In the following days, small coincidences began to happen. A colleague of Marina's, upon learning that she never had siblings, commented, "Funny, I know a Carla Menezes. She worked at the old hospital as a volunteer." Marina felt a shiver. The name echoed in her head like a whisper. Carla Menezes. Without knowing why, she kept it in her mind. It seemed familiar, like a name the heart already knew before the ear heard it. That same week, Lucia received another call, this time from the hospital itself, asking her to come in to sign her final retirement papers and collect old documents. She knew what it meant. She knew that, upon stepping there, the past would breathe again. But she also knew that running away was no use anymore. That night, she lay down next to guilt. And guilt is a light sleeper. It wakes at the slightest sound of truth. The next morning, while preparing coffee, Lucia looked at her daughter and thought, "She's an adult, strong. I can't die with this stuck in my throat." But fear still spoke louder. "Marina," she tried to begin. Her daughter replied, distracted by her cell phone. "Nothing. I forgot what I was going to say." The moment passed. The clock showed 10:17 p.m., the same time that fate, weeks later, would come to collect what was pending. And deep down, Lucia felt the secret, once a refuge, was now a sentence. That night, the wind blew differently, and within Lucia's heart, a certainty was born. Life always takes turns, and each turn brings back what we try to leave behind. The phone would ring once more, and this time, it wouldn't be the hospital. It would be the past itself asking to be heard. But it will also save you. And somehow, she knew she was right. The night was stifling. Outside, the distant sound of rain hitting the roof foreshadowed that something was finally about to collapse. Lucia paced back and forth, restless. The previous days had dragged on in silence, and each time her daughter asked if everything was all right, the lump in her throat grew larger. The clock in the living room read 10:17 p.m. when the doorbell rang. It was Marina, returning from work. She entered smiling, tired, unaware of the heavy atmosphere. "Mom, I brought bread," she said, placing the package on the table. "It's raining outside. It looks like the sky fell." Lucia simply nodded, trying to smile. But the smile wouldn't come. Marina frowned. Did something happen? Lucia took a deep breath. Her hands trembled. On the table, the same letter from years ago, now with the stamp torn. She opened it again. The smell of old paper filled the air, along with fear. "Daughter, we need to talk." Marina sat up slowly, her expression changing. "What is it, Mom? You're scaring me." Lucia looked at the clock. The hand was ticking too high. She closed her eyes, and the words came out. I can't hide it from you anymore." "Hide what?" "The truth about your birth." Marina's eyes widened. "What?" I adopted you, Marina, the day you were born." The silence that followed was like a silent thunderclap. Marina's breath became short. She stood up slowly, as if the ground had turned to quicksand. "You're kidding, right? Is this some kind of joke, Mom?" "No, daughter." Lucia was crying now. "I was the nurse on duty. Your biological mother was a very young girl. She didn't want to, or perhaps couldn't, keep you. And what did you do?" "I took you home. I couldn't let you go to the shelter." Marina laughed, a bitter laugh, not of humor, but of shock. "You stole a child, Mother?" "I saved a child," Lucia replied desperately. "I saved you." "Saved me from what? From knowing who I am? I gave you everything, Marina. Everything I could. You gave me a lie." The sound of the rain grew louder outside. Lucia tried to approach, but Marina recoiled, as if the whole house were made of glass about to shatter. "You were my daughter at heart, before you were mine on paper," Lucia said, pleading. "But I didn't ask to be born a lie," Marina cried, tears welling in her eyes. "I only wanted to protect you." "Protect me from what? From the truth? From another woman's love? From the chance to know who I really am?" Lucia brought her hands to her face, crying silently. Marina trembled, her eyes brimming with tears. "How many times did I ask why there weren't any pictures of you pregnant? Why my father never appeared in the stories? And you always made up some excuse. I thought it was so as not to hurt me, but it was to hide it. I was afraid of losing you," Lucia murmured. "And in a way, I did lose you." Marina took a step back. Her voice came out cold. "Who is she?" I don't know anymore." "You do know." Her tone was one of contained anger. "You knew her name when you caught me." Lucia hesitated. Carla Menezes." The name hung in the air like a sentence. Marina repeated it in a low voice, testing the sound. "Carla Menezes. She was just a girl. And you thought you had the right to decide her fate. I only wanted what was best for you." Marina walked to the window, looking at the reflection of the two of them in the glass. "You know what's worse, Mom? I love you. And yet, I'm angry with you." Lucia approached, but Marina stepped back. "Don't come near. I need to breathe." "Daughter, listen to me." "Don't call me daughter." The cry came out with a pain Lucia had never heard. The sound pierced the house and seemed to wound the walls. Lucia put her hand to her chest. "I was wrong, I know, but every lie I told had the name of your love. And now? Do you want me to thank you for taking away my right to choose who I am? I didn't want to hurt you. Well, you succeeded." Marina grabbed her coat and purse. Tears streamed down her face, but her steps were firm. Lucia threw herself in front of the door. "Please, don't go." I need to find out who I am, Mom. I'm afraid of what you'll find. I already found it. A life built on a secret. Lucia fell to her knees, holding the hem of her daughter's shirt. If you go, I might not see you again. Marina looked at her, her eyes brimming with tears. Then pray that when I come back, I can still call you Mom. And she left. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed throughout the house, piercing every memory, every laugh, every photograph on the wall. The cold wind entered through the crack, and Lucia lay there, fallen on the floor, hugging her own body, as if trying to hold her heart so it wouldn't fall with it. Outside, Marina walked in the rain. Tears mingled with the water running down her face. The name Carla Menezes throbbed in her head like an open wound. She didn't know where to begin, but she knew she needed to go. Love now was divided between two mothers, one who gave birth to her and another who saved her. And as the sky fell, Lucia whispered, alone, "May God go with her and leave me here with the punishment I chose." The clock struck 10:17 p.m. again, and for the first time, time seemed to stop, not to keep a secret, but to bury a love. In the days that followed, the house fell silent. The coffee grew cold in the cup. The curtains remained open, but the sun no longer entered. The plants began to wither, and even the clock seemed tired of marking the time. Lucia wandered through the rooms, touching her daughter's belongings, the mugs, the books, the blouse forgotten on the chair. Each thing was a memory and a guilt. She talked to herself sometimes. She'll come back. She will, when she realizes that I only wanted what was best for her. But the echo didn't answer. One night, she opened the photo album and saw Marina's face as a child, with a wide smile. She ran her fingers over the image. "I gave you everything, my love. Everything," she murmured. "I just didn't give you the truth." Outside, the rain continued, and inside her, the deluge had no end. The love story that began in a nursery was now broken into two silences: the silence of the mother who lied, and the silence of the daughter who no longer knew who she was. Fate, however, had not finished speaking, because every truth spoken at the wrong time can still change when the heart understands the reason. But before that, Lucia would have to face the cruelest punishment of all, waiting in silence for the daughter who might never return. The rain stopped at dawn, but its sound seemed to continue inside the house. The still damp floor reflected the lit lamp, and the shadows seemed denser, as if they had heard the fight. Donna Lucia didn't sleep. She sat in the armchair until dawn, her body motionless, her hands clutching the rosary she had carried since her first nursing shift. With each bead that passed between her fingers, a memory returned. Marina's first smile, her faltering steps, the feverish nights she spent watching over the girl's sleep. All of that now seemed like an old tape being rewound in black and white. In the living room mirror, she saw a woman suddenly aged. A tired face, sunken eyes, and the expression of someone who carried guilt like a second skin. She tried to convince herself she had done the right thing, but the heart doesn't obey logic. The heart only understands what hurts. The next morning, the neighbor knocked on the gate. "Lucia, is everything all right?" She opened the door slowly. "Yes, Donna Sida. I didn't see Marina this morning." Lucia forced a smile. "She went away for a few days." "Oh, okay. If you need anything." "Thank you," she replied, closing the gate carefully, as if hiding a new secret, that she was alone. She went back inside and made coffee, even though she wasn't hungry. She placed 2 cups on the table, as usual, but only one was used. The other remained untouched, its steam rising and dissipating in the air. Lucia looked at her and murmured, "One day you'll come back to have some with me." On the other side of town, Marina walked aimlessly through the wet streets. Her steps were slow, heavy. She didn't know where to go. She felt orphaned, not for lack of a mother, but for having too many of them. There was one mother who raised her and one who abandoned her, and neither seemed to fit entirely within her heart. She picked up her cell phone. She searched the name Carla Menezes. Dozens of results. Old profiles, news articles, school records, but none that resembled what she was looking for. She closed her eyes, exhausted. "Why am I doing this?" she thought. But the answer came on its own. Because I need to understand who I am. In the days that followed, Lucia continued living on autopilot. She washed, cooked, sewed, but the gestures were empty. The nights were worse. The sound of absence echoed in the rooms. Sometimes she talked to herself. Is she going to hate me forever, God? Is that it? Silence. I lied to save and ended up losing. On the third night, she dreamed she was returning to the hospital. The corridors were deserted. She heard a baby crying. She followed the sound and saw Marina, a newborn, in a crib. But when she tried to grab it, an unfamiliar hand pulled her away. She woke up startled, her heart racing, her daughter's name stuck in her throat. She went to Marina's room. The bed was made, the books stacked, the faint perfume still clinging to her clothes. She sat there and cried softly. Lord, punish me if you must, but don't let her hate me forever. Meanwhile, Marina was searching for clues. She called the old hospital, pretending to be a researcher. Hi, good afternoon. I'd like to know if you have any old birth records from 1996. Yes, ma'am, but they're confidential. It's personal research. I'm trying to understand a family case. Patient's name? Marina hesitated. Carla Menezes. On the other end of the line, silence. Then the attendant replied, Curious. That name has reappeared recently. A retired nurse was consulted about the case. Marina's heart raced. Which nurse? I'm not authorized to tell you, but she already knew the answer. It was Lucia. That night, Marina didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, her mind spinning in circles. Love and hate fought inside her like two voices whispering at the same time. One said, She deceived you. The other, She saved you. She picked up her cell phone and opened the photo album. She looked at each image with new eyes. Childhood, birthdays, hugs, everything seemed too real to have been a lie. In one of the photos, Lucia was with her on her first day of school. Her mother's gaze said it all. It was love, pure love, without disguises. And Marina cried, because even hurt, she couldn't hate that woman. The following days were a silent punishment for both of them. Lucia, isolated, lost her appetite. Marina, consumed by doubt, began to have nightmares. And between the two, an invisible thread continued to connect hearts that pretended to be distant. One afternoon, Marina went to her old childhood home, where she lived before her mother's retirement. The neighbor, Dona Lourdes, recognized her from afar. Marina? Girl, it's been so long. Hi, Dona Lourdes. Do you remember when my mother worked at the hospital? Yes, I remember. Lucia was a saint. She worked day and night, but there was a time. The woman paused, thoughtful. There was a time when she showed up with you in her arms. She said it had been a difficult birth, that your father had died in the accident. Marina felt her body go cold. She told you that? She did, but you could see in her eyes that there was more to it. She loved you so much. She was even afraid to look at you and fall apart. She thanked her and left. With each step, she felt the pain give way to a strange compassion. Perhaps her mother had lied, yes, but lied out of love. Meanwhile, Lucia began to wither away. Her body no longer responded as before. The pain increased, but she refused help. She said it was just tiredness. The doctor at the neighborhood clinic insisted she be examined. Your tests show very high blood pressure, Dona Lucia. You need to take care of yourself. She smiled weakly. Doctor, what's killing me isn't the blood pressure. It's the silence. One cold afternoon, she decided to write a letter. She took a notebook and began to write in trembling handwriting. Marina, I know you feel angry, and you're right. When I took you from that hospital, I thought I was saving a life, but I didn't know I was postponing pain. You grew up, and I grew up with you. Every lie I told was a way to keep the love alive. Your biological mother didn't reject you, daughter. She gave you up, out of fear, out of pressure, out of having no choice. I never wanted to steal her place. I only wanted to make sure you had one. If one day you forgive me, know that my love has no signature, no blood. It only has you. She folded the paper and put it inside the sewing box. If I die before she comes back, someone will deliver it, she murmured. Marina, on the other end, did something similar. She got in her car and went to the old hospital. In the records department, she requested access to records from 1996. A sympathetic employee discreetly helped her. The mother's name is Carla Menezes, "And the father?" she asked. "He's not listed." She flipped through the pages and saw the record of a responsible nurse, Lucia Helena de Souza. Her heart tightened. There was the proof, the lie and the love written on the same page. On the way home, she pulled the car over to the side of the road and cried. She cried with anger, pity, love, and loss. She looked to the sky and said, "God, if she erred, it was because she loved me too much. And I don't know what to do with this." She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She decided, before looking for Carla Menezes, she first needed to understand Lucia, not as a mother, but as a woman. That night, while the wind blew against the windows, the two dreamed the same dream. They were in the hospital. A baby's cry echoed. One woman stretched out her arms, another hesitated, and before the sound faded, the baby smiled. Love, after all, has its own ways of reminding people that the truth can separate, but it can also guide back. And destiny was already preparing the reunion. The sun was beginning to rise when Marina parked in front of a simple house on an old neighborhood street. In her hands, she held the paper with Carla Menezes' address, the name that had been haunting her dreams. Her heart pounded, as if her whole body was trying to stop what her mind insisted on doing. She knocked on the door. Silence. Then, slow footsteps from the other side. The door opened. A woman in her 40s appeared. Light eyes, hair tied back, tired expression. Time had left its marks, but there was sweetness in her gaze. "Yes?" she asked, suspiciously. "You are Carla Menezes?" "Yes. Who are you?" Marina took a deep breath. "My name is Marina. I think I'm your daughter." Time froze. The woman paled. Her trembling hand rested on the wall. "What?" "I was born at San Rafael Hospital in 1996. The name of the nurse who registered me was Lucia Helena." Carla brought her hands to her face. Her eyes filled with tears. My God. Silence. The street disappeared. The world, in that instant, was reduced to two women trapped in the same past. "I thought you—" Marina tried to continue. Carla interrupted her, crying, "That you had died. That's what they told me." Marina blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "I was too young, Marina. I was 17. My mother was strict, religious, concerned with appearances. When I got pregnant, she locked me in the house. She said I had tarnished the family name." Lucia listened silently. Carla continued. "At the hospital, I went into labor alone. When I woke up from the anesthesia, they told me the baby was born weak and didn't survive. I screamed. I begged to see, but no one let me. Tears streamed uncontrollably. I cried for years thinking you were dead, Marina. And now you're alive." Marina froze. The ground disappeared beneath her. Everything she believed crumbled. "So, she saved me." Carla nodded, sobbing. "She saved you, daughter. That nurse, Lucia, she was an angel. If she hadn't taken you, you would have gone to anonymous adoption, or worse, to some shelter." Marina fell to her knees. She cried like a child. The name Lucia now sounded different, not like the woman who lied, but like the woman who protected her from the world. Carla knelt beside her. The two embraced, their tears mingling. "I searched for you so much," whispered the biological mother, "but they told me it was useless. And I grew up without knowing you cried for me," replied Marina. "I grew up thinking I had been rejected." The hug lingered, dense, full of regret and consolation. When they parted, Carla looked at her with tenderness and pain. "I don't want to steal her place, daughter." "And you won't," Marina replied. "Her place is unique, yours too." Carla smiled sadly. "Then go to her, before it's too late." At that same instant, miles away, Lucia felt her body weaken. The tiredness, the remorse, the weight of so many years were beginning to take their toll. She tried to get up, but her legs wouldn't respond. The sound of the clock on the wall was her only companion. 10:17 p.m., the same time as always. She fell onto the sofa, her chest heaving. She was short of breath, her vision blurred. But before losing consciousness, she looked at the photo on the wall, herself and Marina, laughing at a birthday party. She extended her trembling hand as if she wanted to touch her daughter's face, and she murmured, "I love you, my girl, even if you never come back." Then, the world went dark. Hours later, Marina's phone rang. It was Donna Sita, the neighbor. "Marina? Daughter, it's your mother. She fell ill. She's in the hospital." Her heart raced. She ran without thinking. The car almost flew through the wet streets. Upon arriving at the hospital, the same one where it all began, she recognized the corridor, the smell, the cold. It seemed like a cyclical nightmare. She found Lucia on the stretcher, pale, breathing with difficulty. The doctor explained, "A blood pressure crisis, but her condition is delicate." Marina held her mother's hand. "Mom, listen to me," she whispered, crying. "I know everything. I know you saved me." Lucia's eyes opened slowly, brimming with tears. "You knew?" "I knew, Mom. Carla, told me everything." Lucia turned her face away, tears rolling down her face. "I swore to myself that I would never let you suffer what she suffered. I wanted you to have love, even if the price was my sin." Marina kissed her hands. "Mom, what you did wasn't a sin. It was a miracle." Lucia smiled weakly. "I didn't give you life, daughter, but I gave you a reason to want to live. And I lived for that, Mom. I lived for you." The machines beeped softly. The room smelled of disinfectant and longing. Marina rested her head on her mother's chest and cried. Lucia ran her hand through her daughter's hair in an automatic gesture full of tenderness. "I loved you from the first second, even without being able to." "I know, Mom. Now I know." The doctor came in, asking her to leave. But Lucia held her daughter's arm. "Stay. If I'm going to rest, I want to hear your voice." Marina, sobbing, whispered a prayer. "God, don't take her now. Let me take care of her like she took care of me." Her blood pressure began to stabilize. The doctor was surprised. "She's reacting." Marina smiled through her tears. "See, Mom? Even God didn't have the heart to leave you alone." Lucia closed her eyes and took a deep breath, more at peace. "Then promise me something, daughter. Anything. Don't be angry with the truth. It sometimes hurts, but it always sets you free." Marina nodded, crying. "I promise." Days later, Lucia was discharged from the hospital. They returned home together, like two survivors of the same storm. Carla, the biological mother, visited them. The reunion of the three was silent and beautiful, without demands, without accusations, only tears and understanding. Carla held Lucia's hand and said, "You took better care of my daughter than I could have." Lucia replied humbly, "I only did what love told me to do." Marina looked at the two of them, moved. "I don't want to choose between you. You are two halves of the same love that brought me here." The three embraced, and time seemed to stop, as if the entire universe bowed before a love that was born from pain and survived guilt. That night, Lucia went to the backyard and looked at the sky. The stars seemed closer. Carla was beside her, silent. Marina appeared with 2 cups of tea and smiled. "It's not fair to leave the sky just for God. We also need a little peace." Lucia laughed softly, her eyes welling up with tears. "Peace is what's left when guilt goes away." "And yours went away, Mom?" Marina asked. Lucia held her hand. "It did, because now I know that love doesn't need to be born of blood. It only needs to be born of truth." And for the first time in years, the clock on the wall struck 10:17 p.m. But this time, the sound no longer weighed heavily. It was light, as if time, finally, had forgiven as well. The morning arrived slowly, like someone learning to tread softly after crossing a field of broken glass. The sun touched the living room window and drew a rectangle of light on the sofa where Donna Lucia rested. Her breathing, once irregular, now had the rhythm of a lake, calm, deep, unhurried. Marina made coffee, while Carla chopped fruit with almost ceremonious care, as if each slice needed to give thanks for being alive. No one spoke of the hospital. No one spoke of guilt. The silence that filled the kitchen that morning was not the same as before. It was a new, clean silence, the kind you learn to respect, because it holds within it the sound of newly born forgiveness. "Is the coffee strong, Mom?" Marina asked, placing the cup in Lucia's hands. "It's just like your grandmother used to make it," Lucia replied, with a smile that had the texture of a beloved old blanket. "Strong enough to raise the dead and gentle enough not to scare a saint." Carla laughed softly. The laugh was timid, but sincere. She observed the house, the plants, the picture frames, the handmade lace tablecloth, and understood there a pedagogy of affection. Everything seemed to have been placed in the way that love dictates. She stood for a few seconds, undecided, until Lucia noticed. "Sit down, Carla. No one here is a visitor." The words came like a peace decree. Carla sat down, breathed, rested her elbows on the table, and held the cup with both hands. Marina watched the two women, the one who gave her her body and the one who gave her direction, and felt the strange joy of someone who finally finds in the same place what she always thought was opposite. "I brought some documents," said Carla, pulling a worn folder from her bag. "It's not much. Certificates, old photos, the little that's left of my adolescence." "Thank you," said Marina. She took the folder like someone picking up a puppy, with delicacy and astonishment. "I want to hear you. Everything. No rush." Lucia nodded, her eyes no longer afraid. She was ready to listen, as she had done so many times during her night shifts. But now the patient was her own story. Carla spoke. She spoke of the boyfriend who disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy. She spoke of her strict mother, of escaping to the bathroom just to cry where no one could see, of the lonely birth, of the poorly administered anesthesia, of the voices that denied her a crib and imposed her daughter's death as a sentence. She spoke of returning home carrying an invisible grief, no wake, no coffin, no photo. She spoke of the day she tried to kill herself and was saved by a neighbor who gave her a glass of water with sugar and a prayer. She spoke of the years she searched for clues, knocking on doors that only returned silence. Neither of them interrupted her. When the last word ended, a sliver of light crossed the kitchen. The sun had risen, proud to see three women standing. "You didn't steal anything from me," said Carla, looking firmly at Lucia. "You gave me back my life, even if I didn't know it." "I owe you an apology," replied Lucia. "Not for having loved your daughter, but for having loved with fear. Fear cripples love." Marina reached out and touched both their hands at the same time, a bridge made of fingers and tears. "You don't need to compete inside me," she said, her voice low but whole. "I am the result of two acts of courage. The courage of a girl who survived her own family, and the courage of a woman who disobeyed the world so that I could breathe." After coffee, the three went out onto the balcony. The street smelled of laundry drying on a clothesline. A cat crossed the sidewalk, indifferent to human upheavals. A gas truck played a silly song, the kind that gets stuck in your head for hours. Life, as always, pretended to be normal, but there was a new territory there, the territory where truths learn to coexist. "I want to take you somewhere," Marina said, pulling Lucia by the hand. "And then, if you want, we can go visit the past together, Carla." The place was a 15-minute walk away, the school where Marina taught. At the gate, the children ran towards her as if running to their own birthday party. "Teacher," they all shouted at once. "Is there a story today?" Marina smiled. She introduced Lucia as the woman who taught me to write about the heart, and Carla as the woman who gave me ink for it to exist. The children didn't understand everything, but they understood the essential, that there was an excess of love in that presentation. In the teacher's room, Marina put up a new poster on the wall, Project 22.17, a reading and conversation club for students who wanted to talk about family, adoption, loss, and births without photographs. Lucia silently read the subtitle, "Every truth has its time, and every time requires care." Carla took a deep breath. She felt proud of a daughter who had learned to transform wounds into tools. Back home, Marina proposed a simple agreement. From today on, no more fearful questions. We ask what needs to be asked and answer what can be answered. Agreed? Agreed, they both said. In the afternoon, they went to the old hospital. The corridor no longer hurt so much. The archive no longer burned as before. The receptionist recognized Marina, smiled knowingly, and brought a box of papers. Certified copies, incident reports, dates. Everything clean, officially rewritten. At the top, a stamp. Rectification by Administrative Act. Inconsistencies from 1996. They corrected the past?" asked Carla, almost incredulous. "No," replied Lucia gently. "We just learned to call it by its right name. In the logbook, a final signature was added. Marina's, declaring awareness that her story had been marked by fear and love, and that she chose not to sue anyone, only to live truthfully from then on. The attendant looked at her in surprise. "Are you sure?" "I am. I don't want a victory that steals my peace." They left hand in hand. The 4 o'clock sun transforms ugly cities into beautiful cities. Everything looks like a photo album. Everything seems more possible. On the way, they stopped at a square with a cement bench. Lucia sighed and rested her head on Marina's shoulder. "Do you know what I learned today?" Lucia asked. "What?" "That we only rest when we learn to share the burden. I carried you and the secret. Now there are 3 of us. We can take turns." Carla laughed, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "And the world turns upside down when 3 women sit on a park bench and decide they're going to choose the ending of the story together." A boy passed by selling candy. Marina bought 3, not because they wanted sweets, but because certain rituals compel destiny to smile. In the following days, the house gained a new lease on life. The refrigerator had more jars than bad memories. The living room wall gained a new picture, a photograph taken by a neighbor on the balcony, with the 3 of them embracing, laughing with their eyes closed. Next to it, Marina hung an old clock rescued from a thrift store. She adjusted the hands of the clock and, with a small key, set the timer so that it would never again show 10:17 p.m., not as a reminder of pain, but as a symbol of a new beginning. On the back, she wrote with a pen, 10:17 p.m., the hour when truth learned to love. Lucia returned to the health center, not as a patient, but as a volunteer. The head doctor, upon seeing her, almost cried, "Mrs. Lucia, we miss you here." "I can miss anywhere but myself," she replied good-humoredly. "And that's what I am, caring." Together they created a welcoming protocol for teenage mothers. It was simple, humane, and direct. A clean bed, attentive ears, bureaucracy without violence, a network with a psychologist, a social worker, and, if the girl wanted, a group of mothers who had already gone through this. The name of the program? Mother with Life. Because life without with doesn't sustain anyone, Lucia explained, eliciting laughter from the team. Carla, in turn, began attending the group, first in silence, then telling her story, not like a soap opera, but like a map. 2 girls decided to keep the babies after hearing her. A third chose adoption, but not anonymously. She wanted to meet the woman who would carry her story forward. There was no judgment. There were hands joined. It was the first time Carla left a hospital room feeling that the air in the corridor didn't weigh her down. Marina, at school, transformed Project 2217 into a small, weekly miracle. The children brought questions, fears, scribbles. A little boy said he was being raised by his grandmother because his mother didn't know how to be a mother yet. A teenager revealed that she didn't have baby photos and that this caused a sadness that hurt her body. Marina opened her notebook and wrote on the board, "What doesn't have a photo also existed." The children copied the phrase as if learning a good spell. At home, routines were reorganized effortlessly. Lucia and Carla coordinated the shopping. Marina cooked, and the 2 of them argued over who would wash the dishes. At night, every now and then, the TV would be on, showing old movies with predictable endings. They watched not for the plot, but for the pleasure of being within each other's reach. The house breathed together. The new clock sometimes stopped on purpose, as if paying homage to the time that needed to be still so that life could pass. Not everything became perfect. On some Sundays, a silence would fall across the table. Sometimes Carla's gaze would wander out the window. She remembered her harsh mother, the teenager she once was, the dark room where she was denied the right to cry loudly. Lucia noticed, and without saying a word, filled her cup with coffee. Marina understood and put on music, a song about roads and spring. They weren't asking for the pain to go away. They were only asking her to learn good manners. On a rainy afternoon, Marina picked up the folder of documents and spread them out on the table. The old birth certificate, the new stamps, the recently developed photos. At the end of the table, she placed 3 envelopes, one with the name Lucia, another with Carla, and the third with me. She smiled at the 2 of them. "I want to propose a pact. Each of you writes, in your own handwriting, a 1-page letter to me. It can be for the Marina of today or for the Marina of 1996. I want to keep all three in the same envelope, the one with me. That way, when I doubt who I am, I can open it and reread it. And I'll remember that I am made of three voices that learn to sing together. Carla looked at Lucia. Lucia looked at Carla. They both nodded. That night, the letters were written. Marina read them silently. From the 3 pages rose a smell of paper and promises. There was a family there, irregular, improbable, intact. When she finished, she put everything away and said the phrase that, unknowingly, the 2 women had been waiting to hear. "I'm not leaving." She said nothing more. It was enough. There are certain statements that are made with the completeness of a glass of water after a desert. A month later, they officially inaugurated the Mai Com Vida program at the health center and the Projeto 2217 at the school. A local journalist showed up to do a story. Marina agreed to be photographed, but made one demand. The 2 mothers would stand beside her, one on each side, holding hands. The reporter asked if there was any discomfort. Lucia answered first. "Discomfort is not telling the truth. The rest is just habit." Carla added, "We don't erase what hurt. We learn to walk with it without stumbling." And Marina concluded, "Not all love is born of blood." The reporter looked up, curious. "And what is it born of?" Marina looked at the 2 women, held their hands tighter, and concluded, "Some are chosen, and never regret it." That night, when the living room clock struck the hour that had been a ghost for years, 10:17 p.m., no one noticed. They were too busy laughing at a lame joke, sharing a slice of cake with chocolate frosting, and debating whether the pot of ferns should go inside or stay outside. Time, perhaps for the first time, understood that it no longer ruled there. It could move on, if it wanted. They had already learned to fly with their own hands. In the bedroom, before going to sleep, Marina opened the envelope from me, just to test the security of the future. She read the 3 letters, and smiled. She turned off the light and whispered, without knowing which of the 2 she was talking to, "Thank you for choosing me." Outside, the rain began to fall. But it wasn't a harbinger of a storm. It was a liquid blessing, washing away the street, the guilt, and the remnants of a past that, finally, had learned to behave. And for a second, it seemed as if the whole house breathed together. Does every truth need to be told? Or are some truths born to protect those we love? The narrator speaks softly, almost as if afraid to awaken time. The image that emerges is simple. A modest house, a set table, 3 still warm cups. Outside, the rain falls lightly, as if the sky decided to converse in whispers. Inside, 3 women, Lucia, Marina, and Carla, laugh at something banal. But the laughter has the weight of a miracle, because laughing after pain is a kind of courage that the world rarely applauds. The imaginary cameras slowly move away. The sound fades, and the narrator continues in a tone that mixes tenderness and wound. Truth has many forms. Sometimes it's a word spoken at the right time. Other times, it's the silence of someone who chose love instead of pride. Donna Lucia lied, and was wrong. But in her mistake, there was a kind of purity that few have the courage to understand. Because hiding a truth to protect a life is also a way of loving. The wall clock reads 10:17 p.m., but this time, no one notices. The house is full of sounds, smells, life. Time, tired of being a memory, is now simply what it always wanted to be, a passage. Some truths are born to liberate. Others, to teach that love isn't always made of confession. Sometimes love is made of choices that only those who live understand. The image cuts to the hospital. A young nurse hands a baby to a frightened mother. Lucia and Carla, many years later, watch this scene through the glass window, as if the past were repeating itself, but with a different ending. Marina, with her name tag on her chest, holds the medical record. In the responsible for discharge field, she writes in firm handwriting, "Mother, Carla Menezes. Caregiver, Lucia Helena de Souza. Destiny, love." The music rises softly. The audience's eyes fill with tears. And the narrator concludes, "Money can buy cribs, clothes, and birth certificates, but only love gives a true name, because a mother isn't the one who gives birth, it's the one who stays." The screen slowly fades to black. A final sentence appears, white against a black background. Not all love is born of blood. Some are chosen and never regret it. Silence. The audience is still caught in the sound of their own tears. The narrator returns with a calm voice, almost an embrace. If this story touched you, comment below. Do you believe that love can be born from a secret? Like, share, and follow the channel, because every mother deserves to be remembered, even when the truth arrives too late. The sound of an old clock echoes one last time, 10:17 p.m. And then the sound of laughter, not of drama, but of life, the kind of sound that comes when love finally understands that forgiveness is the only true name that time respects.